So I was just sat there reflecting on this journey that I feel like I'm being called to go on in regards to being vulnerable, sharing my thoughts, and taking this content creation to another level. Now, by another level, it's not doing anything flashy, it's just the amount of output, the amount that I'm going to have to do in regards to volume genuinely made me feel a little bit uncomfortable when I thought about how much I'm going to have to create in order to provide value. Now, when I was reflecting, it made me, you know, stumble upon something that I think could be quite profound, but quite simple. So I was sat there thinking about, the amount of content that I'd want to create and how I'm going to go about doing this and the volume that I'm going to have to put in and the consistency. And something came to mind. Does your input match your intention? And does your output match your ambition? Now, on the surface level, you might be thinking, what does that mean? Input, intention, output, ambition. These are going to be where you find out how serious you are about what you're trying to achieve. So let's use inputs as an example. A common thing that people say is, you are what you eat. People say you are what you eat. And you can go to, 9 out of 10 people are going to agree with that statement. You are what you eat. However, 95% of people don't know what they're eating. Now you're going to say, what? I know what I'm eating. You don't. You don't track your macronutrients. You don't know how much protein you need. You don't know how much carbohydrates you need. You don't know the amount of vitamins you need. You don't read the back of labels. So you would say you are what you eat, but your inputs are not matching your intentions. Now, if your intention is to become somebody that's strong and prosperous and vital and healthy, your inputs are not matching your intentions because your intention is said outcome. So you're telling yourself one thing and you're acting in the polar opposite to what you're trying to achieve. Now, when it comes to your outputs, this was where I was really thinking about, okay, how much output am I going to have to how much output, how many videos am I going to have to create? So I was thinking about what has to be, channeled into me and how am I going to nourish self? And I was thinking about how that directly correlates the amount of output which is aligned to my ambitions. So if I'm not challenging myself with the right things, if I say you are what you eat, and then I contradict myself because I don't know how much protein I need, or I'm not getting the correct amount of sleep, now my inputs, what's going into me, is not aligned with my intentions. And that means that my intentions can never be aligned with the amount of output that I need in order to get my ambitions. And I just sat there, I was just reflecting on this and I thought I need to come and share this because it was a profound moment for me. And if I find it profound, even if there's one person out there that agrees or sees some value in it, then I think is a worthwhile pursuit. So I had to think, okay, if these two things are directly correlated, what does that make us as humans? And I started to think a little bit deeper. And I thought, you know what we are? We are conduits. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what a conduit is essentially something that allows something else to pass through it. Now, these things can be thoughts, these can be, it can be a pipe that protects the electrical wires that go underneath your floorboards in your house. That would be considered a conduit, or something that allows water to flow through. And something I found profound was those systems that we see when it comes to, you know, the electrics in your house, it's the same systems with us. So, what do I mean by that? You have to be able to receive things at a particular frequency. So, ice is unable to flow through certain pipes, and all ice is a particular state of matter. So, you've got water, you've got steam, you've got ice. These are different, they're all water, they're all H2O molecules, but depending on the vibration of the molecules, it depends on the state that is in. And I thought, wow, what is my state? If I'm the conduit, what am I attracting and allowing to flow through me? Am I attracting the positive things? Am I vibrating at a certain level where the inputs that are coming in are flowing towards something of positivity? Or am I attracting things that are at a different state that are then projecting into my outputs? And it just goes full circle, like it really made me realize everything comes down to energy, but we can control the energy that we not only attract to us, but that we let flow through us. And that means that we have control of the whole process. Oftentimes we can feel like we're passengers in this journey, but if we can be cognizant and control the inputs that flow through us, then we can create the outputs and we can begin to manipulate our reality in favor of us. But it only works when it's towards positivity, or you're aligned with the right frequencies going in that are going to yield the right outcomes going out. So just sit there and reflect. Are the inputs that you're putting into your life aligned with your intentions? Your intentions being said outcome that you're trying to achieve. And then are the outputs, the things that you're putting out on a consistent basis, are they aligned with your ambitions? Because if you don't rise to your ambitions, you're going to fall to your standards. And your standards are going to be the inputs. Because if you have low standards for yourself, you're not going to put in the best inputs in order for you to succeed. And it's just crazy. I literally got this thought process from thinking about the volume of content that I'll need to create in order to be someone that's valuable. And I thought, I don't want to dilute the amount of content that I need to make. I don't want it to be low level, but to show that there's a certain level of seriousness, there needs to be a good amount going out. There needs to be a certain level of consistency. And I was thinking, wow, that's quite overwhelming. In order to, maintain a certain level of consistency, how am I going to do that? And the way I do that is the choice of the inputs that I put into myself. Because if I'm constantly progressing, if I'm constantly learning things, if I'm constantly taking care of my body, nourishing my body and staying sharp, I will have a consistent flow of the right things coming towards me, because I'll attract things at the right energy if I'm a conduit for things that are at the right frequency. Okay? It's very interesting. Certain states or certain things cannot pass through certain conduits. So you have to prepare yourself as the channel and be intentional about your inputs. Because when you have intention, it means you thought about the byproduct or the outcome of what's initially going in. And then once you control that, now you choose your level of output, and that will be equivalent to the level of your ambitions. So yeah, it was, yeah, I feel like I've been somebody that thinks like this for a while, and I've never thought about, just being vulnerable and open and sharing these things. And I think the way I think is, relatively abstract. I don't really see many people talking about these things, but they're also, I'd like to think they're quite logical. I can use the elements of science, we can use the elements of spirituality, and we can use the elements that are practical as well. And I feel like sometimes when I'm seeking knowledge outside of myself, it's too much of one area. And this is what happens when you begin to consume more than you create, because you're not channeling or you're not outputting at your level of ambition. So the reason I wasn't seeing anything was because some of the answers were already within me. But in order to reveal the answer, I have to be congruent with my level of ambition, but I also have to be intentional about what's going in. And when you start to do these things, if you're thinking, wow, like how can I unlock this for myself? Just be really aware of what you allow in. And if you are ambitious in whatever vertical it is, make sure that you are at least trying to put things out. Because this was something that I always considered. I always considered that, I'd want to do certain things and there was no action following it. So that action and ambition, the action, ambition, and outputs, they're all essentially, they're together. It's not possible for you to reach certain heights If you don't shoot, you don't score. That's the best way to put it. The simple way to put it. If you do not shoot, you cannot score. So if you're really ambitious, assess what's going in first. Ensure that you're aligned with things that are where your intentions are set, and begin to take action. Imperfect action is better than meticulously thinking of the perfect steps and doing nothing. If I didn't post any videos, it's impossible for me to get any views. If I post consistently, I'm increasing the chances every time I post of something resonating with someone. It's not even about the level of views. These things are very, what's the word? Equitable. You will get back what you put out. It's not about getting, the millions of views. Your message reaching someone is dependent on the value that they get back. That's all it is a signal. That like that you leave or that comment that you leave saying it resonates, it helps because it will help push this to somebody else that will be aligned with a similar message. So I just say that to say, yeah, be cognizant of, if you're a very ambitious person, just ensure you're outputting. Ensure you are outputting, because once you start putting things out, you're increasing the chances of that thing really ticking for you. Remember, I always talk about that success equation, and I say, it's preparation plus opportunity equals success. And then I say the variable that can accelerate that is your positioning. Your positioning is essentially the consistency of your output, because you're putting more tickets into the ballot. You're increasing the probability of that number landing on you. Then you're taking it from something that is considered chance to something which is within your own control. And that's something I really want to share with people, that it is within your control. You have what it takes within inside you. Don't always seek the exterior. Just ensure that you're nourishing yourself with the right things. So information is obviously important, but you can overconsume. If you're somebody that's intentional, ambitious, and quite strategic, sometimes you can overconsume information. But it's not just about the inputs with the information, is the inputs of the nutrition, the inputs of the people that you have around you. Because you can take yourself to the next level through a channel that isn't just the information, is who you become. And who you become in this process is everything. It's not necessarily the materialistic things that are going to follow. It's actually who you become as a person. So, yeah, I just thought I wanted to share that with you, because I feel like I'm being called to, commit to a certain level of consistency. And I don't know how long that will, I'll get that calling for, but it will be for as long as deemed necessary by essentially you guys, I guess, So, yeah, be intentional with your inputs and with your outputs. Make sure they're aligned with your ambitions, and then you're bringing the favor into your control. You know what to do. Let's get to work.